To have a chair or a couple chairs next to you. I know it is not the Wyoming way, but if you could squeeze in to let some people, we've got standing room in the back. So first thing we want to do is tell you thank you very much for coming, and we want to point out that we have some new exhibits. If it's been a while since you've been at the Rockpile, we have two new exhibits. One has to do with the Iron Riders, if you guys want to take a look at that before you leave. Very inspirational story. And then we recently received a lot of Mike Enzi's artifacts, his goods. Goods is probably not a word. His information. And Justin, who's our museum assistant, created an exhibit that's on the wall out there that talks about, how many of you have ever heard of Schoolhouse Rock? Oh, applause. I'll just say that again, Schoolhouse Rock. I love this, this is the best. So here's the deal, anybody notice that no one up here raised their hand? No one. And in fact, Cody, who's also, she's our museum part-timer, she was like, I have never even heard of Schoolhouse Rock. And we all were aghast. See, same thing, Julie. I was like, oh, you have never seen it. But Justin is bringing it back. So it actually is an exhibit that talks about it, I'm just a bill. Now y'all can have that in your head for the rest of the night. But please check out our new exhibits. We work really hard here to bring great programming and to do new exhibits so that it is constantly taking care of the history of Campbell County. And in fact, I want to invite everybody here. Next Friday, we have an exhibit that's in the back that you guys can't get to right now because of the birds, but it's called Hurrah for the Cowboy. It's part of our 50th anniversary. And the curator of that exhibit will be coming next Friday. His name is Lee Silliman. He'll be here at noon, and he's talking about the history and the lore of horses at noon. Who likes horses? Everyone in the front. I love that. And then he'll be coming back at 7 o'clock that night, and he will be talking about the history of the American cowboy, our very loved American cowboy, right? So you guys are welcome. Those are both free. If you come to the noon one, bring your lunch, and you can come and just learn a lot from this gentleman. He's very, very knowledgeable. Then our next event, I feel very close to you. Do you feel like I'm too close to you? Okay, good. Our next event is Thursday, December 5th. Mark it down on your calendars. This will be a fun one, not necessarily for the kiddos. We're going to be celebrating Repeal Day. We're actually going to have one of she is considered like a historical mixologist from Backwards Distilling in Casper. She's going to come and talk about the repeal of prohibition and distilling and all those kinds of things. It'll be over in the annex. So we'll have, it's just going to be a great event celebrating the repeal of prohibition. So, I didn't hear that, but I wish I had. Okay. You know what? There are samples. Oh, well, yeah, there will be samples of the drinks that she's mixing, and then, of course, we'll have a cash bar here, and food, because I'm a firm believer in that. So what I'd like to do now, because nobody's here to listen to me talk, we're here to see what? Birds, that's right, or raptors. Who thought they were coming to see dinosaurs? Put your hands down, people. It's not a velociraptor, it's a raptor. Okay, you guys are going to learn all kinds of cool things. We have already been in the schools today, and we had a blast. We learned lots of great things. They were at Prairie Wind. But I would like to introduce to you the Draper Museum Raptor Experience. They are based out of the Buffalo Bill Center of the West in Cody. That is the biggest mouthful. In Cody, Wyoming, and they take in permanently non-releasable birds to help educate audiences across the globe about the importance of raptors and all wildlife. And this is the Raptor Program Manager, Melissa Hill, and she has helped to create the Raptor Experience in 2011 and has over 25 years of experience working with educational raptors. Now, one more thing, and I want everybody to listen up. At the end of the presentation, each of these ladies, and it's Melissa, Chloe, and Sally, will stand behind the ropes, and you will be able to stand in line to get your picture taken with each of the raptors. Okay? Does that sound good? That way nobody's fighting over it, and we know we can just form lines and get pictures taken, okay? So help me by giving them a warm welcome to the Rockpile Museum.
Hey, all right, so I'm coming through. So, wow, thank you guys so much for joining us. This is so exciting. We love coming to Gillette, and we love the fact that you guys always pack the Rockpile when we come. So, before we start bringing out our special guests, couple of rules. The birds that you get to meet today are still considered wild animals, okay? So, they're trained, they're used to doing programs like this, but we want to make sure that they feel comfortable. So, I'm counting on all you guys up front to be able to sit still and to be quiet. Do you guys think you can do that? Because you're the closest one to the birds, and you're the ones that are most likely to scare them. You guys don't think you're scary, do you? You're terrifying to a bird. So, we need everybody nice and quiet up front, okay? And I also want you guys to know, we love answering questions. So, I know you guys are going to have questions as we go through. I am probably going to tell you what you want to know. So if you think you have a question, remember it, and we will answer them at the end of it. You're just doing the opposite. I know, we're all excited. All right, so as mentioned, all of the birds that we care for are ones that can no longer survive in the wild. We currently care for 12 birds at the center. And not only are they birds that can't go back in the wild, all of the birds in our care are native to Wyoming, and they're native to the greater Yellowstone ecosystem, which is what the Draper Museum specializes in. So if you have been to Cody, if you've come to our museum, and if you've gone through the Draper Museum, it's all about Yellowstone. So all the birds that you meet here tonight are ones that you can find in this area. And these, we brought 3 very common birds to share with you. So, without further ado, our first bird, Sally's like, oh, gee, hurry. Well, you can probably tell already that this is a red-tailed hawk. His name is Isham, and red-tailed hawks are the most common hawk found across North America. And these guys live in all kinds of different habitats, from Alaska down into Central America. So you can see these guys in the deserts. They live out on the grasslands. You can find red-tailed hawks in Central Park in New York City. They don't mind living close to people, and they like open space. The reason that they love to hunt in open space is because they have great eyesight. Now, one of the things I forgot to mention, I just got carried away talking to you guys, is when we start talking about raptors, that's just one of the groups that help make up 10,000 species of birds across the planet. And raptors are different from pigeons and ducks and songbirds by 3 main characteristics. So number 1, the raptors are going to have amazing eyesight. We're going to get into that here in a minute. Second, raptors are all going to have sharp, hooked upper beaks. And you can see that as Isham turns his head. You can see that beak comes out and hooks down nicely. Every bird in the world is going to have a beak. And every beak is designed for the kind of food that the bird eats. That's why you see all kinds of different beaks out there. Raptors are carnivores. They only eat other animals. So that sharp hooked upper beak helps them tear meat away from the bone into smaller bites so they can actually swallow it. So you're going to see sharp beaks on all of these guys. And then finally, what makes raptors different is, remember, I'm answering questions at the end. They catch their food with their feet. So the raptors are typically going to have powerful feet, and they have sharp claws that we call talons. So the raptors are going to be the hawks, eagles, falcons, owls, kites, caracaras, harriers, vultures, osprey, a few others in there. So these guys like to be in open places because that's where it's easiest for them to hunt. Because this bird relies 100% on his eyesight to find his food. Hawks, especially red-tailed hawks, they eat lots of different things. And I'll tell you what, a long time ago, a lot of people thought that these were bad birds. They used to try to kill red-tailed hawks because they thought they were killing all of our chickens, or that they were competing with us for food. Like if you like to go out and go grouse or pheasant hunting, these birds like to eat pheasants. But what people didn't realize is this bird can't eat an entire pheasant. It's very rare that they take big things, and instead of being competition for food with us, these guys are farmers' best friends. The things that this bird loves to eat are going to include songbirds like the grackles and the starlings and the crows that can get into our crops and start destroying those. They love to eat rabbits, which can cause a lot of problems. They'll eat snakes, which are actually really beneficial animals, but lots of people hate snakes anyway. And their favorite food out there is probably mice and voles. And those are things that we don't want around us because they can eat all of our food, they can destroy stuff in our house, and they can spread disease. So red-tailed hawks are phenomenal pest control. And I know Isham doesn't look like he's going to be out there, wiping out entire populations of mice and voles. But living with us, Isham eats about 6 mice every single day. And this is a bird that he doesn't burn a whole lot of energy. And in the wild, red-tailed hawks can live about 15 to 18 years for an average. So, I bet every one of you did the math in your head. 6 mice every day times 365 days times 15 years. Who's got the number? I'm just kidding. I did this math years ago. If he only ate 4 mice and he's barely surviving, he would eat 22,000 mice during his lifetime. One bird. And then you figure there are probably close to 1 million red-tailed hawks across North America. And Swainson's hawks, rough-legged hawks, ferruginous hawks. Great horned owls, I almost forgot the name of an owl. This has been a long day, you guys. They are going to take care of those rodent populations so we don't get overrun by them. And we already spend billions of dollars trying to get rid of those animals anyway. This guy does it completely organically, and he never charges anybody for that job. So they are absolutely wonderful to have around. And they are awesome. To find all of these critters, he's going to use that awesome eyesight that we mentioned raptors are going to have. So it might seem kind of weird. This hawk right here has ginormous eyeballs. They don't look that big, do they? They just look kind of regular. Well, if Isham was stretched out, so he is as tall as I am, so can you imagine a hawk that stands 5 feet 7 inches tall? It's terrifying because we might be dinner. But if he was that big, his eyes would be as big as tennis balls. Can you guys imagine walking around with eyes this big in your head? That's kind of scary too, but they're important. And they're not just big, okay? This is kind of what your eyeball looks like. We do have eyeballs. Here's a comparison. Raptors don't have eyeballs. It's almost like they have eyebells. So they have this area that bulges out at the back of their skull. So he has these big eyes in this big area at the back. The bigger your eye, the better eyesight you are going to have. And with this big area, he has basically a telephoto lens. So those big lenses you see on cameras, that's what their eyeballs are. So that means he can see farther than you and I can. That red-tailed hawk can spot a rabbit a mile away from him. I might be able to see a car a mile away from me. He's going to see that rabbit, and he's going to see it clearly. Every image that he looks at is about 2 to 3 times bigger than how we see it. Now, on top of that, he sees faster than us. So that means his brain and his eyes talk faster than ours do. We can process about 20 images every second. He can process 70 or 80 images every second. So that means any little movement, he's going to notice it. He's going to pick that up. And then on top of that, he sees more colors. He sees them more brightly than you guys do. And that is really important. You guys remember what I said he likes to eat? All those rodents, mice, voles, rabbits, snakes. What color are most of those? They're brown, right? What color is the ground in Wyoming most of the year? Brown. We're looking for brown animals on the brown ground. Do you guys know how many times I have walked past a rabbit and not even realized it was there until it moved? You've probably done the same thing. So if you're a red-tailed hawk and you're standing out looking over a field and you are trying to find dinner and everything you like to eat is brown and the ground is brown, it could be really hard if you had human eyes. But if you are a red-tailed hawk, you can find a snake for dinner. How many of you found the snake for dinner? Now can you see the snake for dinner? So the more colors you can see, the better chance you have of finding your food. So their incredible eyesight means that these guys are going to be able to find those animals, to catch them and eat them, and to keep our environment less polluted with rodents. So these guys are incredibly important out there. So the next time you guys are driving along the highway, keep your eyes peeled. Red-tailed hawks are everywhere. And we have them in Wyoming all year long. We have fewer in the winter, but they do still live here all year long. Up on the power poles, on the fence posts, along the roads. That's a great place to see them. It's not a great place for them, but it's a great place for us to see them. And the reason it's not a great place, as we drive by in our cars, we scare all those little critters, the mice, the rabbits, they run away from the road because of our car noise. Well, the red-tailed hawk, this is a great hunting spot, right? Look at all these critters moving. But what if that rabbit turns and runs back across the road in front of a car and the red-tailed hawk follows? And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened to Isham. Isham came to us back in 2011. He's been with us 13 years. And he was hit by a vehicle in 2004 down in New Mexico. And he had just eaten a meal. So the odds are he had followed that animal to the road, and as he was trying to fly away, he didn't get out of the way fast enough, and a car hit him. Now, when that collision happened, he had so much damage to his right eye that it had to be taken out. So when you look at Isham, if he turns his head, you'll see he only has one eye. Sometimes a red-tailed hawk can survive with just one eye. They are usually adults, they're already used to hunting, they've got some skills. Isham was a young adult, so he was maybe about 2 years old when this happened, and he also suffered some damage to the one eye he still has. We know, after living with him for 13 years, that Isham cannot see things up close. So when Sally goes to pick him up and she brings this black glove towards him, he probably can only see a black blob. He doesn't really know exactly what's coming. He's used to it, so he knows what's coming, but he can't see it very well. But this bird can still see another red-tailed hawk when it is a tiny little black dot in the sky. And the reason we know that is he screams at them. And he tells them, "Get out of my territory." So he's in the past, he screamed. We come outside and we're like, what is going on? And we'll stand there for a minute before we finally see the little red or the little black dot. And that's his way of saying, "This is my house, get out." So he can still see far, but that doesn't help you when you're trying to catch a rattlesnake that's right there, right? Yeah, it's not going to be good. So because of his eyesight, Isham will be with us for the rest of his life. Now, he hatched around 2002, which means he's about 22 years old. Remember the wild lifespan of a red-tailed hawk? They average about 15 to 18 years. But we do know from banding records that these guys can live 30 years in the wild. So they are long-lived birds. The bigger the bird, the longer their lifespan tends to be. All right, so that's just a little bit about our red-tailed hawk. Now, the next bird we're going to bring out, so guys, remember you want to be nice and quiet still. This is her first time traveling. She did her first 2 school programs today, and she did awesome. So we want you guys to have the same great experience. Chloe has a little tiny bird, and you're going to notice too, when Chloe brings her up here, she's feeding her. So if you guys think about scary things that happen or things that might be a little overwhelming or new to you, wouldn't it be easier if somebody just gave you a cookie while the bad things were happening? I mean, I would be happier if people were feeding me cookies all day. So what Chloe is doing is she is giving Dot, this is Dot by the way, she's giving her little pieces of mouse. It's her favorite food, and right now she gave her the best part, the tail. So you're going to see her eating the end of the tail there, and then she'll swallow it down. But this helps her understand that this is okay to be in front of a whole bunch of wiggly people, and we've got 100 bodies out here. And if she was scared, she wouldn't eat that. So you guys are doing a good job. She's got the hang of this already. Now, Dot is an American kestrel. How many of you have heard of them before? How many of you have heard of a sparrowhawk? Yeah. These used to be called sparrowhawks. It's a terrible name though. Sparrowhawk implies that she's a hawk. This is actually the smallest kind of falcon that you can find in North America. So she's not a hawk at all. And sparrow implies that she's either the size of a sparrow or that's what she eats exclusively. And although Dot would eat a sparrow here and there, she eats lots of different things. So she likes to eat mice, obviously, voles. She would eat little snakes and lizards. And in the summers especially, she loves to eat bugs, crickets, grasshoppers, beetles. Again, are these things that you guys want around your crops or your house? No, most of them are not. So this is another bird that's doing a great job of pest control for us. And like that red-tailed hawk, she likes to be out in open areas. So usually when I see American kestrels, they're around fields. They love agricultural stuff. So pastures, the cropland, that's where these guys like to be. But you can find them in parks in urban areas. So just about everywhere. And this is probably still the most common raptor that you can find across North America. And they live all the way down into South America too. Now, one of my favorite things about American kestrels is that the colors are different between the boys and the girls. With red-tailed hawks and most of the owls and the eagles, there is not a color difference between the boys and the girls. But in the American kestrels, just like in the songbirds and in the ducks, these guys are going to have color difference, and the males, the boys, they get to be prettier. Makes you feel kind of special, huh, guys? Now, Dot's a girl, and although she doesn't get to be as flashy, girl, she's bigger and stronger. Yes. Yeah. The girls are usually about 30 to 50% bigger than the males. And the reason is they're defending the nest. They're protecting the babies. And also, these guys have to have a big tummy to be able to sit on the eggs to keep them warm. So the girls get to be a little bit bigger. But there's also that color difference. So Dot, we know, is a girl because when you look at her colors, she's kind of this reddish brown all over with lots of black bars all over her body. Wings, back, tail. That's a female American kestrel. If we brought our male American kestrel, he would have blue wings. They're kind of a blue-gray, like the color you see on the top of Dot's head. And the tail doesn't have all those black bars. So now I want you guys to keep watching alongside the rows. So now you're looking for a little bird. This, by the way, is not a baby. This is an adult. This is about as big as American kestrels get. So I want you to watch for these guys. And not only now can you tell people, I saw an American kestrel, you can tell people, I saw a girl American kestrel, or I saw a boy American kestrel. And some of the things that really give them away, because they're small, they can be hard to notice. But when they're sitting on the wires, they love power lines and fence wires, their tails will bob back and forth like this because they're balancing on that little wire. And then once Dot's done eating, you're going to notice as she's looking around the room, she bobs her head all the time. Kestrels do that. Yeah, she bobs her head. And she's judging the distance. She's focusing while she's doing that. So, oh, that was a very large piece to swallow. Oh, she's not. You guys know not to take bites that big, right? Nobody taught her. So you're going to notice that she's going to start bobbing her head, and that's just her way of focusing and while she's watching the ground. Now, the real giveaway that you are looking at an American kestrel, they hover. So while hawks like to soar, what kestrels do is they get maybe 30 or 40 feet above the ground, and they flap their wings really, really fast, and they stay in one spot with their heads holding perfectly still, wings flapping, and they watch the ground for those critters to be moving. So watch for that. They are all over, and we do still have some that will spend the winters here. Most American kestrels will head south for the winter, but sometimes the males will stay. And that's because they want to be here when the girls come back, so they've got their territory and nobody steals it over the winter. So a lot of times we can still see the boys in the winter. So you guys keep your eyes peeled. Now, if you remember back to when we were talking about the characteristics of the raptors, I want you to notice on Dot that her beak looks much smaller. And I don't mean because she's a tiny bird. But notice how her beak does not stick out as far on her face. Now, I know, guys in the back, that you can't see that. She is definitely too small for that. So here's a close-up of a picture of our peregrine falcon. And falcons look like they flew head first, pretty fast, into something, and they smushed their beaks in. So they have much shorter beaks. But there's also something special in this photo. When you look at this, can you guys see that little notch that sticks down? Okay, notice that there's a matching part that's gone on the bottom. We call that the tomial tooth or the killing notch. Yeah, you guys didn't realize you're looking at a ferocious killing machine, did you? So falcons have this special notch on their beak because most falcons like to eat other birds. So not all of them do, but almost all falcons are going to eat other birds. Something else that's important to notice is her toes, okay? I mentioned that they have thick toes that are going to be strong and they have these sharp talons. When you look at Dot over here, you're going to notice, I mean, they're not as big because she's a tiny bird. But on the falcons, their toes are much longer than on the hawk. So we've got these long, skinny toes on the falcons. That is an advantage. If you are trying to grab birds out of the air as you are flying, long, skinny toes can weave through all the layers of feathers. Now look at this picture. Look how curved those talons are, those claws. That means they can hook them into the body of the bird and latch on so that bird can't get away from them. Now remember, she's still flying through the air. Long, skinny toes means you're not quite as powerful with your grip. But that's okay, because that notch lines up perfectly between the neck bones of those birds, and the shorter beak is really strong. So the falcons will bite down really hard, and they break the neck of the bird that they caught, and they can kill them instantly, even while they're flying through the air. So that special notch is something that you'll see in the falcons, but not in the hawks. And it's a really good tool to help these guys survive out there in the wild. But again, it's never easy out there in the wild. Has everybody noticed why Dot lives with us? You see how her wing sticks out a little funny? She came to us from a wildlife hospital down in Utah. She was found at a construction site. Now, we don't know how she did it, but she broke her left wing near her elbow. It's a really tough spot to heal anyway, and when you're a tiny little bird, it makes it much harder. So unfortunately, that bone did not heal well enough for her to be able to fly again. So Dot lives with us because she can't fly anymore. And if you are a kestrel and you can't fly, there's no way you can survive in the wild. Now, I mentioned she's not a baby. Dot is 4 years old. And again, bigger birds have longer lives. Most American kestrels don't survive more than about 3 to 5 years in the wild. But again, the ones who are really skilled and they get lucky, they can live 18 years or so out there in the wild. So Dot, even though she looks like a baby, she is actually a full-grown adult. And one of the other really cool things, and I forgot to mention this at the schools today, not only do the boys and girls have different colors, when we talk about most birds, the baby birds have a different color from the adults, but in the kestrels, they get their boy and girl colors from their first set of feathers. So Isham, when he was just in his first year, he looked very different than he does right now. When Dot got her first set of feathers when she was about a month old, she looked like this already. So right from the beginning, we can tell the difference between the boys and the girls. It gets harder to tell the difference between the grown-ups and the youngsters because their colors are. You guys see her bobbing her head now? She's checking out something over there. All right, we're gonna let Chloe put Dot away, and we have one more bird here. This is usually everybody's favorite, and that is going to be the great horned owl. So, okay, everybody's nice and quiet, remember? There we go. So she's kind of like, are you kidding me? I have to do another program? Oh, and she got herself twisted up. We're going to give Sally a second here to get her untwisted and come out. But if you have been to a Rockpile Museum program with us before, you've probably seen this bird. How many of you know Teasdale? There's some hands going up. Teasdale is our great horned owl. She was the first bird to ever arrive at our program, and that was 13 years ago in August. So Teasdale also came from the same place that Dot did. She is from Utah, and Teasdale also has a damaged wing. Now, one more time, we don't know exactly how she managed to break bones, but in hers, it would be the equivalent of these bones in your hand. This is what she damaged. And you guys might not know it, but bird bones heal about 3 times faster than our bones do. So by the time she made it to that wildlife hospital, her bones already started to heal in the wrong position. So Teasdale has a damaged wing also, and she can't fly anymore either. That's why Teasdale lives with us. And like Dot, we do actually know how old she is. She did not have adult feathers yet. So Teasdale was not a year old when she broke those bones. And so Teasdale, we know, is 14 years old. And they have about the same lifespan as the red-tailed hawk. So in the wild, we would expect a great horned owl to live about 15 to 18 years. But the oldest one that we know of was 26 years old. So I'm hearing up here, she's huge. Teasdale's actually a small great horned owl. In fact, I'm going to tell you guys, we don't brag about this very often, but the last time we were here at the Rockpile, Teasdale was a boy. Now Teasdale wasn't actually a boy, but because of her size, we thought Teasdale was a boy because the girls are bigger. Teasdale is a pretty small girl, but last year we sent in some blood to a lab and they told us that Teasdale is a girl. And you have no idea how weird it is for us after 12 years to say she. Luckily for us, Teasdale does not care. As long as you feed her and you leave her alone, she's fine. So she is kind of on the small side for a great horned owl. And for any of you that have had an owl fly in front of your car at night, they look gigantic. These guys can actually have a 5-foot wingspan, which is about as wide as mine is. That covers your whole windshield when you're driving and they come up over the hood. So I can verify for everyone, I also have had a great horned owl come up off my windshield. They are ginormous when they're flying through the air. So they have really big wings, and it's part of how they hunt. So for all of you guys, when are owls supposed to be hunting? At night. What's the big fancy word for when you hunt at night? Nocturnal, exactly. Teasdale's like, I did not do that, but I'm okay with it. So we're all taught that owls are nocturnal, which means they hunt at night. But interestingly, there are a lot of owls that hunt only during the day. Now, Teasdale is what we call crepuscular. How many of you have heard that word before? Like 2 or 3 people. Crepuscular means that you're most active in low light. So these kinds of owls typically love to hunt at dawn and dusk. But I will tell you, she can hunt any time of the day. If it is 2 o'clock in the morning, it is pitch black out, she can go hunting. Her eyes are built for that. If it is 2 o'clock in the afternoon and she is hungry and it's bright and sunny, she can go hunting. Her eyes can handle that. So these guys don't necessarily go by the rules that we tell them they're supposed to have. You know, we say, oh, you can't be out. Owl, it's during the day. They don't care. And this bird right here has one of the widest menus of any raptor in North America. So she's going to eat everything that the red-tailed hawk will eat, plus bigger things. So that red-tailed hawk might eat a bird up to the size of a pheasant. Great horned owls have been known to go after great blue herons that can be 4.5 feet tall. Not only does she like to eat snakes and lizards, she'll go after frogs. She can hang out by the water. She loves mammals, from mice and voles up to her favorite food in the whole wide world, skunks. And I can tell you from experience, almost every great horned owl that gets hurt and almost every great horned owl that gets hurt and ends up at a wildlife hospital, they smell like skunk. And the reason I can tell you that is I put them in the back of my car before. Takes a couple days to air out, but you're fine at the end. So they don't actually have a good sense of smell. There's still a lot of research going on to find out how good birds can smell, but we think most of them don't smell much at all. So Teasdale does not care that that skunk is stinky, and it doesn't care that they're going to spray her in the face. She just knows it's a great meal in the end. So these birds actually take down some really big prey, and they're able to do that because of a couple different things. Number one, Owls are a lot harder to see. Great horned owls aren't that hard to see. I bet most of you have seen a great horned owl in the wild. But I have been paying attention for 27 years. Other than great horned owls, I have seen 4 owls in the wild. That's not many. And one of the reasons owls are so hard to see is that they're camouflaged. 230 plus species of owls across the globe. Every one of them blends in with their background. What does Teasdale look like? She looks like a tree, right? And if you don't believe us, look at this camouflage. If she was sitting up in a cottonwood tree, she would totally disappear. So during the day, when she really does just want to be left alone, she wants to sleep, she's going to close her feathered eyelids, stand next to the trunk of the tree, and disappear. Now at night, when she goes hunting, she looks like tree bark. So when we go hunting, we put on camouflage, right? Yeah, we don't want the animals to notice that we're out there hunting them. We learn that by watching wildlife. So on top of this great, hey guys, I need you to not wiggle those, thank you. On top of this great camouflage so those animals can't see her, she's really good at sneaking up on them. Owls, even though they have great eyesight, they don't see color like the hawks and the falcons do, but they have great eyesight to hunt at night. But the stuff that she's hunting is camouflaged just like the red-tailed hawk. So she uses her hearing to find her food. Now, if you are sitting up in a tree, you're a great horned owl, you hear a mouse running through the grass. By the time you get to them, you have to keep your ears trained on them, right? You can't just hope they stay in the same spot. You think a mouse is going to hold still? They are wigglier than you guys. So she has to keep her ears focused. I didn't need proof. She has to keep her ears focused on that animal. So, do you think she's going to make a lot of noise when she flies? No. If you're trying to sneak up on your friend, do you run? No. You're going to go really slowly, and you're going to be as quiet as possible. Now, the odds of Teasdale flapping her wings while she's here are really slim, but owls have really cool feathers. So, since we know Teasdale's not going to flap her wings, here's a close-up of one of her wing feathers. So when you look at this edge over here, do you guys see what looks like eyelashes? Okay, this you can find on owl feathers. We call this fluting. All of these little spaces help the owls make almost no noise. So when an owl flaps their wing, they're not flying fast, they're not flapping hard. They usually glide. And when they do that, the air passes through all of those little slits without causing turbulence, which are these little swirls that come behind, and that's what makes the sound. So I want to do a little demonstration. I know folks in the back, I know you're not going to be able to hear this. You guys have to be really quiet up front so you can hear this, okay? We're going to compare a turkey vulture feather and an owl feather. What do turkey vultures eat? Dead stuff, exactly. Do you think a turkey vulture needs to sneak up on something? No, it's dead, it's not going anywhere. So turkey vultures don't worry about being loud, they worry about being able to soar. They spend hours up in the air. So they have very stiff feathers, they're not really flexible. And if you can see along the front and the back edge, it's a very straight, solid line, okay? This is a stiff, sturdy feather. So, you guys ready? Nice and quiet. When a vulture flaps their wing, they're gonna make some noise. You guys could all hear that. I bet most of you could hear that. Owls, totally different. This is one of Teasdale's feathers. Right here is the fluting. Some feathers, the fluting goes the whole way up. Look at the back. Even that's not a solid line. It's wispy. When you touch them, they're so soft. It feels like velvet. And it's a flexible feather. It'll really bend. And when owls flap their wings, they don't flap hard. You guys ready to hear this? Here's what an owl would sound like. You didn't hear anything, did you? I can make this feather make a little noise. You guys ready? You can barely hear anything, right? But an owl doesn't flap their wing like that. They glide or they flap like this. So because of the way their feathers are designed, they make almost no noise, which not only can you sneak up on your dinner, you can keep listening as you're flying towards the sound. And that's really important, because if she can't hear that mouse, she's never going to catch it. So her hearing is really, really important too, and that silent flight is amazing. So for anybody that has had an owl fly overhead, you didn't hear anything and you got that creepy feeling, this is why. Because they're meant to only give you that creepy feeling. Even though she has all these cool adaptations and she's an amazing predator, life's not easy. Teasdale's disability is a lot harder to see, but she also has that wing damage. Remember how I told you that she broke those bones in her wing? The wing that's closer to Sally is the one that's damaged. And she stands, so it's the one that you notice. When owls have perfect wings, you don't typically get to see that the wing is there. Most people think that her good wing is the one that you see, but that's actually her bad wing. So Teasdale, as I mentioned, is 14 years old, and even though all of our birds are with us, we really do prefer them to be in the wild. That's where they're meant to be. We wish that Teasdale and Isham and Dot were all still out there in the wild doing the very important job of pest control. But because they live with us, they don't ever have to worry about being hit by a car. There's no such thing as someone poisoning your food because they don't want the mice around. She's never going to be shot at. And we take away all of the scary things that tend to end their lives early. So our birds, we expect to live 2 to 3 times longer than they would in the wild. So that means Teasdale and Isham should live into their 30s. Dot should live close to 20 years with us. And because we're lucky enough to have some very generous donors, we're able to provide these birds with great care, and we love the fact that we're able to come to places like this and share them with you. And now that Isham says, no way, I'm done, Chloe. Even though, and I totally forgot what I was gonna say on that one. I got all distracted by Isham getting excited. They do still say the first thing, Sally. Even though they can't be out there catching mice and controlling populations for us, they get to teach you guys about how cool they are. And now that you know a little bit more about how important they are, think about what we can do to help them in the wild. So we don't think about how destructive we can be as humans, but there are easy things we can do to make their lives a little bit better. Number 1, we can slow down on the highways. At least 7 of our 12 birds we know were probably hit by vehicles. It's not always possible to avoid a collision with a wild animal. But if we're obeying the speed limit and we're paying attention, and I think most of us in Wyoming are a lot better than the tourists that come to Cody. I think we're a lot better at paying attention and we know the danger areas, but right now we're in the middle of migration. So really pay attention. And something that most people don't think about, billions of songbirds migrate at night. One of the things that we can do to help those migrating birds on one of the toughest journeys of their life is turn our outside lights off. A lot of birds navigate by landmarks, and if we have light pollution, they can't find their way. So if you're able to turn your lights off at night, that's one thing you can do this time of year to help them out. And as we approach Halloween, a lot of people put out really cool Halloween decorations, and it's one of my favorite holidays. Make sure you're thinking about what those decorations could do to wildlife. One of the biggest problems that we see this time of year is our fake spider webs that we hang out because they're so cool, but bats and small birds can easily get tangled in them, and that could end up sending them to a place like ours. So little things like that can make a big improvement in their lives, and it can be as simple as picking up garbage that you guys see, even if it's not yours. Recycle whatever you can. Anything we can do to help make the planet a little better for us makes it better for these guys too. Anything we can do to help make the planet a little better for us makes it better for these guys too. So with that, folks, I'm going to turn my mic off here in a second. What we need from you guys, especially you guys up front, we need you to be slow when you stand up. We need you to be nice and quiet. And as you're coming forward, we're going to step back a little, but you can definitely stand here at the stanchions, turn around, get the bird in your background to take your photos, or come up and ask us questions. I love answering questions. I think Chloe loves answering questions. Sally, she's okay with answering questions. Sally likes answering questions too. We're all very knowledgeable, and we'd love to help you out with that. And if you guys are ready to head out, We really appreciate the Rockpile Museum for bringing us here tonight to share our birds with you, and we really appreciate you taking a little time to see our birds. So thank you guys so much, and enjoy the rest of your evening.